Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that spotlights the stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So sit back, relax, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Well, happy holidays, everybody. From my family to yours, we wish you a very Merry Christmas. The first time I saw this guy was at a local fall festival. Leslie and I were attending the annual Popcorn Festival in Valparaiso, Indiana. And we were there to actually hear another band. And we were just grabbing a bite to eat in the pavilion and hearing some Tom Petty music coming across the PA, thinking that it was just a CD of someone popping it in to entertain the crowd while the band was setting up. To my surprise, though, it happened to be today's guest, who is just absolutely phenomenal. And not only does he sound spot on like Tom Petty, but he's got some incredible music of his own. Will you please welcome from Grand Rapids, Michigan, Max Lockwood.
Hello, Rick. Thanks so much for having me, man, and thanks for the kind words.
Merry Christmas, my friend. I hope everything's going well with your family. Hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
Thanks to you as well.
All right, Max, when I first heard you, I swear to God, it sounded like it was just a reincarnation of Tom Petty. Your band, The Insiders, were performing at this festival. How did you get started? I mean, did you always sound like Tom Petty, or how did this all come to be? Was it just something you trained for? It was just really cool.
Nice, man. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's for whatever reason, genetics or, stroke of luck or bad luck, as it were. No, I'm just kidding. That it just kind of naturally happened that way. And, I've been playing music and playing rock and roll since I was a teenager and playing in bands. And, my old high school band, we used to cover like Mary Jane's Last Dance and some other stuff of Tom Petty's. And from pretty early on, people would tell me like, man, you sound like Tom Petty, or even sometimes that I looked like him. So it was always kind of there. But I never set out. I never once in my life did I think like, oh, I should start a Tom Petty tribute band. That would be cool. I was too busy like trying to, make it as a rock and roll band of my own and doing original music and recording albums and writing poems and whatever else through my 20s. And what really was the genesis of the band was when Tom Petty passed away much too soon, tragically.
Yes.
We, some friends of mine in different bands, we all got together and actually did a little recording project as like just a little fun way to honor Tom Petty's legacy. So we got together at a friend's studio, and the bass player of the Insiders, our Tom Petty tribute, actually organized it all, and we recorded a few Petty songs, including Insider, which is the song that gives us our name.
Right, yes.
And then I was like, well, let's put on a show. Like, everyone loves Tom Petty, and people have been telling me my whole life that I sound like him. I'm going to organize a one-off benefit show, and we raised about $5,000 for a local domestic violence and women's shelter.
Excellent.
Sold out this show. Band just kind of came together perfectly by accident. Like, some of the guys were the third or fourth person I thought of to ask to do the show. It just sort of worked out, and then all of a sudden it was like magical. We got there, we played the show. It just sounded awesome. We all had a great time, and everyone loves the songs. It's like American folk music now. They're just really a part of the fabric of the culture, and it was just a great night. We had so much fun, and then we booked a couple more shows. Those sold out. They were just fun as hell, and we just kept it going and decided, like, well, let's make a thing out of this.
All right, let's give props to members of your band. Who are the members of the Insiders?
Oh God, let's please give those guys some props, because it wouldn't. I mean, sure, I get to I get all the credit for singing the songs and everything, but really what makes the band is that everyone is so spot on. We're all really tight, good friends, and have played music together in various projects over the years here in Michigan. So we've got, I mentioned Joe Van Acker is our bass player, okay. And Joe and I go back, man, like over 10 years now. He's a builder, and I actually, before I ever really even played music with him too much, I knew him from other bands. He's in a band called Airborne or Aquatic here in Michigan, which is a fantastic Michigan folk grunge band.
We'll have to get him on the show.
Yeah, you should. Seth Bernard, he's the leader of that band. He's a fantastic Michigan stalwart. But anyways, Joe is a builder. I actually worked for him on the cleanup crew on a construction project, and then I was kind of an apprentice carpenter under him for a year on another project, and then decided to, give that up. But so he was my boss long before we ever started the band. Our drummer is this fantastic guy, Dane Hammerly, who played in metal bands years ago and toured the country doing that, and is also a rapper and DJ. And he played drums in my rock and roll band, Big Duty Roo, for a few years before we started the Insiders. And then we've got Eric O'Daly is a very good friend of mine, and he actually just put out his first solo album, which is totally fantastic. And I played bass and guitar and some other stuff on that. And I play in his band a lot, and he's kind of he's our sixth man. He's like the Scott Thurston of the band.
Right.
And he's fantastic, just spot on backing vocals and multi-instrumentalist. Lead guitar, of course, very important in a Heartbreakers.
Plays the role of Campbell. Yeah.
Campbell, Petty's right-hand man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got a guy from Kalamazoo. His name's Phil Berry, and we had played for years in a group with May Erlewine, who's another Michigan songwriter. And so we played with her for years. But Phil actually was in a band called Knee Deep Shag. Back
I love these band names.
Right?
I always love band names.
Well, Knee Deep Shag was a sick band, kind of like 90s, 2000s era. And they were like contemporaries with the Verve Pipe and played a lot of shows with those guys and like Domestic Problems. But I knew of them in high school because their drummer, who has filled in for the Insiders, was a teacher at a music camp I went to. And so I saw them do a reunion show when I was like 15, because some of the guys in the Insiders are, kind of the generation above me. So I'm lucky to be playing with some of these, veterans of the scene, including our last member, Mike Lynch. Sometimes they call him the Reverend Mike Lynch here, even though he's not a Reverend. But he is just fantastic keyboardist, and has been playing around the Michigan scene with just tons of artists over the years.
Big shoes to fill, too, by the way.
Well, Phil and Ben Monsieur.
Yeah.
And Mike's real talent is he's really good on that B3, and he carries around his Leslie everywhere he goes, and he builds Leslie speakers.
Oh, you're kidding me!
Amplifiers for them.
Wow, that is really a talent there.
He is. Well, he's selling them and refurbishing them for people all over the state all the time. But man, he played with a band called Steppin' in It that was really big in Michigan and toured around a lot for a while. And he's played with Larry McRae for a long time. He's a great blues artist, and he's just played with everybody, man.
Wow.
So
love these band names, man, Max. I love these band names. They're just killing me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Michigan scene, it's creative.
I'm gonna give you some props here, man. I actually paid good money to go see a Tom Petty tribute band. They dressed like Tom Petty, looked like Tom Petty, kind of sounded like Tom Petty, but not as good as the Insiders.
Oh, well, thanks, man.
There you go. So I just want to give you a little love there, okay? Gigs online so far for 2023 for the Insiders, because I definitely want to come see you guys again.
Oh, awesome. Well, the first ones we've announced so far are a 2-night stand coming up at a place called the Green Door in Lansing.
Okay.
It's an old bar that band I mentioned of Mike's, Steppin' in It. They had a weekly Monday gig there for like 15 years or something. So it's kind of a classic spot in Lansing. So we're going to do a 2-night stand there and try and just exhaust as much of the catalog as we possibly can.
Good.
So that's going to be January 20 and 21. And we've got some return dates in the spring that aren't announced yet at like Bell's Brewery in Kalamazoo and Otis Supply over in Ferndale in the Detroit area. and then, other stuff in the works and a lot of stuff to come in the summer.
Wonderful.
And hopefully getting down to northern Indiana some more again, too.
We definitely want to see you. I'm retiring in just a couple of days here, as a matter of fact, the end of the year. And we are definitely going to be able to do a lot more traveling. So we'll probably come up to the Michigan area and spend a little time with you guys there, especially with the music talent you've got. All right, we were talking about Max being excellent at performing Tom Petty, and we saw him in Valparaiso at the Popcorn Fest. Afterwards, we connected to schedule an interview, and he started sending me his own music. And I got to tell you, and I'm not trying to blow some smoke up your skirt here, buddy, your music is just absolutely phenomenal. I am just absolutely blown away at the songs that you sent me. Your catalog is very, very impressive. I wish to God I was working at a label right now, because I'd definitely sign you.
Oh, damn, man, I wish you were too, but geez, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that.
This very first song I have, if you noticed on Spotify, the number of plays it's been over the last couple of months, those are mostly me. I think I've had it on repeat. This song is called Lonely Gods. Absolutely nuts over the song. The vibe on it is just so cool. It's so ethereal. And
oh man, thanks, Rick.
Tell me about how this came to be, because I'm just absolutely blown away. This is my song of 2022. Of all the folks that I've interviewed so far on the podcast, they've all had really good music. This would be my number one song of 2022.
Oh, dang, man, that's an honor, Rick. Thank you. That's so cool. Yeah, so that was actually a bit of a collaborative effort. My engineer friend, Joe Headinga, who is also based here in Grand Rapids. We were getting together for some co-writing sessions during the COVID quarantine days,
right,
over Zoom, and just trying to keep the creativity flowing as best we could. I had written kind of the riff for that song, or the basic chord progression, and it was something we just started noodling around with over Zoom. He had a little bit of an idea for a vocal melody for those verses. And, so that's the beauty of collaboration. Sometimes you just, something can spark something that you wouldn't have thought of on your own in your bedroom or whatever. And it just kind of sparked some lyrical ideas that I just started running with. And, we were kind of thinking about the sort of desperation of the COVID times and all the political environment that this country's been in, and just the struggle to retain your humanity through it all, more or less. And we kept working on it, and then it kind of sparked the chorus idea from there. And I had probably been reading some Jim Harrison, who's one of my favorite poets and novelists. He's got a book called In Search of Small Gods. It's one of my favorites. And so I think that kind of spurred me on a little bit. But yeah, that's how it came to be from there. And then we, got in the studio in the ensuing year and started working on that, along with a bunch of new songs that I'm going to put out on a new record in the spring.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, you've heard me gush about it. Let's go ahead and play it. This is Lonely Gods from today's Someone You Should Know podcast guest, Max Lockwood.
So you drive into the night.
That is probably one of my favorite songs of 2022, Lonely Gods from Max Lockwood here on the Somebody You Should Know podcast. Max, the music industry today has changed or really evolved since you probably first started. Is it gotten easier or has it gotten even more difficult?
That's a tough question to answer, man. Probably some of both, you know. Mm-hmm. In some ways it's, you know, with the way the internet and social media works and streaming, it's maybe easier to reach people with your music, you know, and have, you know, random people, you know, I don't have a ton of listeners out there on streaming services, but every now and then some listeners in, like, you know, the Netherlands will pop up or something, and I'm like, well, all right, cool, you know.
I know. I want to give props to the individual in Frankfurt who listens to every podcast. Thank you so very much. I do appreciate it. Someday I'll meet you. Someday I'll meet you. Okay, but I want to thank you for your loyalty.
Yeah, I love that.
Hey, so you might actually gain points in Germany for your next tour, bud.
I hope so. I feel like I've seen some listeners in Frankfurt actually, so maybe there's some crossover.
There you go.
You know, yeah, man. And then, you know, in other ways, it's just kind of a mystifying industry right now. And especially going through the pandemic was just sort of brutal at times, just trying to figure out how to move forward and, you know, questioning your entire existence. You know, I mean, when it first started, it was like, are we ever going to even play shows again? Right. You know, it was like no one really knew what was going to happen. So that was kind of a journey. And so I sort of feel like just now that it's sort of getting to a point where it's like, okay, I feel like I can start something new again with some clarity to move forward. So I'm going to put this new album out. But you know, and yeah, it's just kind of a mystery, and it's kind of the Wild West in a way. Like no one really knows. Mm-hmm. The major labels are just, you know, the game is totally different than it was 20 years, right. Definitely 30, 40, 50 years ago. Yeah. And there's just so much more music out there too, that it's in some ways it feels hard to like cut through the noise, you know?
Oh yeah, especially with TikTok and everything. These kids are winding up becoming influencers and releasing songs that have absolutely no meaning or substance, but you're getting, you know, 16 million views. I mean, I don't see it. I'm getting older, obviously, but I would think I would gravitate more to what you're putting out. So there, I'm just saying. I had a longtime friend of mine who was with the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, Soup Grande, was telling me, he says, you know, how the industry has changed. I'll get a notice, you know, the royalty notice saying, oh wow, 27,000 plays on my song this month, and then you get a check for $2. So it's really, really hard to make any money in the industry anymore.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, admittedly, that's something where, you know, like I said, I never set out to start a tribute band, and it wasn't the intention of doing it, but there's a little more market for, you know, something like that that's got the nostalgia factor for people, and something that's familiar and that everybody knows, and it's like kind of comforting in a world in which everyone's got what they call content nausea. You know, there's just so much stuff out there. It's like, I mean, and I don't mind it either. It's like, yeah, it's nice to just play the 15 Tom Petty songs that like everyone knows and loves. Right. There's something comforting and familiar and fun about it.
And a lot of these bands aren't touring anymore. So, and here's the thing that I always tell everyone, because they say, oh, tribute band. I said, listen to this. The individuals who actually put their butt on the line every night and perform these tribute bands know these songs, you know, note for note. I mean, it's lick for lick. It's exactly like the record. It's just as if okay, that's not Tom Petty standing up there, but damn it, the performance is as good, if not better, than what he was putting out in his last years.
I heard through the grapevine some people, some friends of ours, kind of like questioning what we were doing, and like, you know, a little bit of those like sellout kind of vibes and mumblings and whatever when we started the band and we were having some success. And I can understand where that comes from. I mean, there may be a time when I was younger that I might have thought that way about someone doing the same thing too. But what's really surprised me and really been a gift is to find how meaningful it is for those fans of Tom Petty who come and see us, you know, a dozen times and travel around the state to see it. We had someone, you know, come across the lake from Wisconsin to see us last summer in Muskegon at a little bar, because they're such a big Tom Petty fan. They love what we're doing, and we genuinely love it too. We love playing the music, and we love doing gigs with each other and just having fun doing it. And it really brings joy to people every night that we're out there doing it. So that's something I never would have expected, is how like deeply meaningful it actually is for us.
Well, speaking of Tom Petty, I was playing this next song at the radio station while I was just, goofing off at my desk. And someone walked by and said, "Oh, new Tom Petty music. When are we going to add that in rotation?" I'm going, "That's not Tom Petty. That is my buddy Max Lockwood." The song is called "Burning It Down." I love the vibe. It's a great song, man.
Yeah, nice, man. Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. I appreciate that, man. And we actually we referenced when we were mixing that song. We referenced "You Wreck Me" for like the guitar sounds.
I love that song.
So, yeah.
All right, let's play that right now. "Burning It Down" from Max Lockwood here on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
When you get around to burning it down, don't forget how you kept me around. The sky grows dark as the sun rolls south. We still don't know what it's all about. The stove is on, the water's high. The sun ain't up, but my skin's pulled taut. Maybe you don't know me anymore. Nothing is ever what it was before. The song that comes to dispel the dark, will teach you to cradle a broken heart. The melody will reach right down in your gut. The only thing heavy enough to get down into that rut.
Max Lockwood right there, today's guest on the Someone You Should Know podcast. That song right there is called "Burning It Down." Max, in an effort to save a couple of bucks here and there, you've got a Patreon site that goes along with your website. Obviously, when you go to Patreon, when you actually open up a Patreon type, setup, it's to give subscribers a little additional something else. What are subscribers going to get when they actually plunk down an extra couple bucks and become a member of your Patreon site?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you mentioning that. I just started a couple months ago, so it's just kind of evolving as I go. So far, it's just been a lot of behind-the-scenes content and, demos of songs or, old unreleased stuff from the archives, of the last 20 years of making music. And I also, I got into doing film photography in the last couple years, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. So I include a lot of that stuff. And, you know, like when we're making the album, just content videos from the recording process, talking about that, and like writing lyrics and poems, kind of some of the original stuff there. Sent out a monthly newsletter, and it's kind of evolving as I go. So I'm trying to figure out more stuff to include.
We will include that in the show notes. So
Cool.
anyone who wants to become a member, I'm going to have to sign up there because I want all this the backstory here.
Appreciate it, man.
The production quality on the songs that you provided me is exceptional. Props to whoever did the mix on these. Where did you record them at, and who did the mix?
Well, the last couple albums and the new stuff have been recorded and mixed by Joe Hedinga, who I mentioned, who I've kind of worked on.
Props to Joe. Props to Joe. Excellent job, Joe.
No doubt. Joe is a fantastic engineer, and we work on the production stuff together, and we've become kind of a good team. I feel like, you know, he's very good on the technical end of things and doing all the engineering, and I can throw in on the creative side. Well, both of us can. He's fantastic on that end as well. And we've gotten a chance to work on some productions for other artists as well together, which has been really fun. But yeah, Joe's great.
Awesome. Once again, Joe, nice job. Nice job. A lot of depth, to the sound. Really enjoy that. Sonically, it's just really, really awesome. The next element is something we love to include here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. These are those infamous road stories of getting to and from gigs, things that happened at the gigs. It's called Tales from the Road. And I'm sure in your years of even the early days of, early gigs and such to even more recent stuff, you've had events that didn't go exactly as planned. I know looking back on them, you're probably saying, well, I can't believe I survived it. At the time, you're going, how in the heck are we going to make it through this? What would be your tales from the road, Max?
Man, I know you sent me this in an email, and I kind of gave it some thought, and it's like, God, there's almost too many. It's like, you can't even narrow it down.
Give me your top two. Maybe your top two.
I'll give you a couple quick ones. Right. As you were mentioning the early days, actually, I remembered this one. My first ever performance on stage was the 8th grade talent show. I put together a little like pop punk quartet for the first time, and we were our first song. I was playing bass, and our first song was "Brain Stew" by Green Day.
Oh, Green Day, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yep, and I was just so pumped to be on stage. You know, just I feel like I was kind of born to perform. It's just where I feel the most comfortable. And so I get up there on stage, and we start the song, and my adrenaline's just running. You know, and I got my bass plugged into my little Ampeg amp. My Squire jazz bass, and I'm, playing with a pick, and I'm running up to the front of the stage trying to rock out, and then all of a sudden there's no sound coming from my bass, and I'm like, what's going on? And I look back, and I had walked all the way to the front of the stage and popped my cord
there you go. Yep.
out of the front of my amp, and
you're not the first one to do that. I want you to know that.
No, I'm not, because my uncle's a musician.
Yeah.
My uncle Al is a great musician and songwriter, and after that, he showed me how he always loops his cable through the handle of his amp before he plugs it in, so that if it gets tugged on, just like you would do with your strap on a guitar,
right? Yes.
If it gets tugged on, it doesn't pull out of the input. So I've done that ever since, even when I don't really need to. It's just
when I used to have this program way back, it came out in like 1999. I can't remember who it was. They were talking about the fact that they got caught in it was actually the mic cable. They got caught in the mic cable, tripped and fell, and they actually had to have it was kind of like a Spinal Tap moment. You're kind of caught in the mic cable, you can't get back up. You have no idea. The mic stand is caught in there too, and I can't remember who that was, but it was just so funny. Okay, let me give me another one of those.
I think I'll give you one from a couple summers ago, playing with the Insiders. We did a small town West Michigan like outdoor summer concert series, and it's like kind of in this little amphitheater in this downtown area of this real small town near where I grew up, and there was mostly it was kind of some older folks sitting out on the lawn in their lawn chairs, and every now and then a couple kids would get up and dance. But then there was this one gentleman who we later found out was named Roscoe. Which is kind of a perfect name for this guy. He was, I believe, a member of what they're now calling the unhoused community.
Okay.
So he was kind of rolling around on his bike and being a little a little disruptive and just kind of gesturing and dancing around. And there was a tip jar in front of the stage that people had been putting some money in. And Roscoe, at one point, he went to apparently put some money in, but he came out with a little more money in his hands than what he went in with. And then at one point, we had our T-shirts sitting out that we were going to sell. And we noticed Roscoe grab a T-shirt, and then he was away for a while. Then he came back wearing the T-shirt.
Oh, no.
Just up there. And so, there was like cops coming up and whatever and trying to like get his attention and, move him along or whatever. And he was being a little resistant. And we'll never forget, we played I Won't Back Down, and Roscoe's the only person on the dance floor. And he's pointing, he's got his foot planted in the ground. He's pointing at his foot, just screaming the lyrics, I won't back down with us. And just everyone in the audience is just laughing. And, later in the night, the cops came and apologized to us. And they really emphasized that he was actually from the town the next town over, not that from their town.
Okay. Of course.
We wish Roscoe the best.
Awesome. Good luck, Roscoe. We wish you the well. We won't back down. I'll be darned. Gosh,
Exactly.
it's a great song right there. And those are some good stories, Max. Thanks for sharing those, man. Let's talk about website links. Everyone obviously wants to get more involved with both your projects and what the Insiders are doing in 2023. Give us the links one more time, please.
Sure. So my website is Max Lockwood Music. It's just LOCKWOOD. And, on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music under that name. And then for the Insiders, it's theinsiderstribute.com, theinsiderstribute@gmail.com if you want to send us a message, and also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all that good stuff. So.
All right. And once again, when Max's album does come out, we'll probably have to have you back on so we can go ahead and share that too.
That'd be great, man.
Final thoughts, Max, before we kind of close up the house?
Oh, man, Rick, it's just really cool that you have this podcast and you're doing what you're doing. And like I said, it's like there's a lot of noise out there in the music industry with all the music that's out there. So it's nice to have some signal cutting through the noise with what you're doing. And
very good.
I appreciate you having me on. And, I'll let you know I'm going to put the album out probably in May. And I'll keep you posted and hope to come back on.
All right. How do you plan on spending the holidays? Got plans?
Let's see. Probably do some stuff with friends and family and go up and visit my girlfriend's family and, nothing too crazy. I do have some shows with, like I mentioned, May Erlewine. She does some kind of old soul R&B style dance party shows in the holidays. So I play bass in that band along with a couple of the other guys in the Insiders. And it's a big dance party. So we're doing May Erlewine and the Motivations shows in Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, and Ann Arbor coming up soon.
Awesome. Very good. All right.
Yeah.
All right. The last song we're going to feature is called Nothing to Fight. What's the vibe on this one?
Oh man, that was one that I wrote one winter when I was just feeling like, sometimes the world and, the culture, everything gets a little overwhelming, and just trying to work and make a living and make it as a musician and, whatever else. And sometimes you just kind of need to take some time to yourself and check in with what's going on inside your own heart and your own soul. And so, there's a lot that you feel like you have to fight out there, but it's nice to have nothing to fight. So that's kind of where that came from.
All right, very good. We're going to play that song right now as we close the show here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. We wish everyone a very happy, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, a very safe 2023. And Max, I thank you so much for being on the show, taking the time to be on the show here, and look forward to seeing more and more of you in 2023.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Rick, and thanks for listening.
I need some time alone in the dark. I need some time just to feel my heart. I need some time alone in the dark to see my way back again. Spent a long time rolling the dice. Spent a lot of time being nice. Paid a lot in attention to deposit long overdue. It's just me and nothing to fight. bar to find out if there's still any heat here inside of me. Take a walk to feel my feet on the ground. Talk it out with no one around. Try to feel the pull of the stars above, the gravity of love. It's just me and the tree tonight. It's just me and nothing to fight. It's just me with nothing to hide.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.